Good afternoon. I'm Julie Eklund. I guess I don't have room for this here. I am the Director of Planning at the Coordinating Board. I've been in that role for about 7 months now. I have to confirm what Susan has just shown you. There really is a wealth of data on our higher education data website. I am amazed by how many folks call me and ask questions about a whole range of things, and I'm able to say to them, well, let me take you to the Coordinating Board data website and show you where you can find that information. It's just amazing to me how much is there. We're continually adding new things. I think our website revision has been wonderful because it makes it easier to find what's there. I've had people say, I never knew that transfer information was there or that dual credit information was there. I think it's much easier to find things now. So I really would encourage all of you to go to the data website, do some exploring, see what's there. We were talking a little bit earlier in our breakout session about the fact that a lot of institutional representatives call us looking for data, and we hope that you're able to coordinate with the people at your campuses regarding data requests. Maybe they can come through you, because there's a lot that's already out there, and we're also very willing to produce additional data, but it's very helpful if those efforts are coordinated. So if someone knows the information that's being requested, we're able to find out all at once and work with you in terms of what you need. That said, I'm here specifically to talk about the Higher Education Accountability System, which is an interactive system on our website that includes data. And one thing I really like about it is that I think it's organized in a way that's useful for novice data users, people who aren't that comfortable with data, but also for people who are very experienced using data. So it kind of reminds me of, when they talk about digital natives, our kids who have grown up in the digital age, and then digital immigrants with people who are just coming into it. I think the accountability website is designed so it's useful for both. And let's see, I need to figure out how to move my slides here. First, I want to talk a little bit about the background of the accountability system. I hope most of you have heard of it by now, but it was developed as a result of an executive order from Governor Perry. The executive order came out in January of 2004. I wasn't at the coordinating board at that time, but I understand it was very busy for Susan Brown and David Gardner and their staffs, because by December of that year, they had produced and put the accountability system online. We are still in that traditional cycle of posting the accountability system at the end of December. Actually, now it's moved into January and February. January for the universities and February for the community colleges. The accountability system was first just for universities and for the technical and Lamar colleges, but community colleges were introduced soon thereafter. One thing that is brand new with the accountability system this year is that we have now added career for-profit institutions, so proprietary schools. We have that information in the accountability system with many of the same measures that we have for the public institutions. One thing that can get a little confusing is we have 2-year career schools, and there's a link to those. I'll show you that in a little bit. We have 4-year non-Texas public institutions. And we use that title because the institutions that we have data for are not Texas publics. Some of them are public institutions that are out of state but have a Texas presence. Some of them are career schools, but some of them are not. We don't have information in the accountability system for the ICUT schools, and those are the independent colleges and universities of Texas. We have special arrangements with them. But we have added the career schools, and you will see non-Texas public 4-year institutions as an option for when you're selecting data. Okay. The accountability system is structured along the closing the gaps targets and goals, and so it's divided four easy sections, and we added a couple more. But participation, success, excellence, and research. Efficiency was added a few years back. We've got efficiency and effectiveness measures, and we also have some patient care measures for the health-related institutions. I was talking about how the accountability system kind of works for people who are not that comfortable with data and folks that use it all the time. We have a small number of key accountability measures for each of our main topic areas for excellence, participation, success, etc. Some of those measures include little buttons that say detail, and I'll show you that in a little bit when I have the slide that shows the accountability system. A lot of folks don't notice those buttons, and they're really important because that's where we have demographic breakouts for some of the categories. You especially see that in the participation category. In addition to that information, we also have contextual and explanatory measures for each of the major goals. And this gets into more detail. You click a link at the bottom of the main key measures, and that'll take you to those contextual measures. And there's several of those for all of the different categories. Institutions have the opportunity to add explanatory comments for any of the measures so that if there is additional information that they want to convey related to the measure that's being shown, perhaps the data, something happened at the institution that year and that affected what the numbers look like. There's, it could be an issue with the data. It could be a special program that they started and that changed the numbers. So institutions have the opportunity to put feedback in, and all of you as liaisons will be getting the letters that we send out. We'll copy you on those letters that go out to the institutions regarding the measures and the comments that the institutions add to the system. Most of the data for the accountability system comes from the existing CBM reports, so it comes from the data that we already collect from institutions. Some of it is IPED's data or data measures that the LBB gives us, so some of their measures are reported back to us and they're in the system, but there are some measures that institutions add themselves, and so you will see those notifications. It's really important that the institutions update that data in a timely manner so it can be part of the system. So that's actually something that's going to be happening soon. This is the main website for the accountability system. And here's our main data website, and you'll see where I've circled accountability, and I think it's light because I'm in there all the time, so it's not highlighted on my system. I'm glad we chose something that began with A because it's always front and center under those online applications. So it's really easy to find. You'll look, that's right smack in the middle of the page. And I'd like to say that was deliberate, but it just happened that way, that there's our accountability system right in the middle of our data page, and I think that's where it belongs because there's just a wealth of data in here, and I think it's very important information. Okay, so if you click on the accountability system link, this is where you'll find yourself. For some reason, it's natural to look at the big screen and not the small screen here. I talked a little bit about access to the data and the information through the different measures such as participation, success, and excellence. And you can see that in the arrows on the left-hand side. But for those more sophisticated data users, those of you who really need or want to drill down into specifics, we also have interactive access to data on the right-hand side of the accountability page. A lot of folks don't realize that that's there or they're not sure how to use it. That's really where you're able to get in and gather a whole range of data related to these measures. We've got longitudinal data year by year back to 2000 for almost all of these measures. If you select a measure if you go through the main link, say through participation, you'll see 2000 and then you'll see a couple of the most recent years. But you can go through the interactive system and find data for that measure back, in most cases, 12 years back to 2000 when Closing the Gaps began. So there's a lot of information in there. Okay. So I'm just going to click here. If you go into the interactive access to data, the screen looks like this. All of the measures are listed on the left, participation, success, etc. And you can click on them and drill down deeper and deeper. So in this case, I selected headcount enrollment. You can see you can get information for all different categories. You can get information, and then within each of those, you can click and get information for any number of years. So there's a lot of detail in here. You'll see in the red box on the right-hand side that there's the opportunity to select a whole range of different options for how you want to show the data, whether it's by institution, whether it's by system, or whether it's by accountability peer group. And I'm going to talk a little bit in a few minutes about the accountability peer groups. But we do have, again, lots of different ways to slice and dice the data. So if you have a data question, this is a really good place to start. You also, of course, should look back at some of the other online applications that we have. The profile reports or PREP system is another place where we have a lot of interactive data. So spend some time if you have the opportunity and look through the system, because, again, there's a lot there. Now I want to go back, and this is the detail button I was talking about earlier. So in this particular screen, I didn't trust myself with the keyboard. Susan did a good job, but it is hard to manipulate. So in this particular screen, I took a screenshot. I had selected participation. This is the first key measure, the fall head count. You can see we have a lot of data. We have data by gender and race and ethnicity here, but you also see we're pointing to that little detail button. We slice and dice things many more ways in those detail buttons. So if you're in the system, that's a good thing to look for, to see that. The other thing I want to point out is there's a gray bar across the top. You'll see the very top of the page under where it says, and in this particular case I selected Austin Community College, but you'll see there's a gray bar, and that'll show up on all the pages. That's where you can find the measures and definitions. You can also get a definition for each measure if you hover over it. Right now, it kind of is acting, you hover over it and it shifts the page. We're actually coming out with something new in 2012 where the definition will pop up in a gray colored box. So it's really easy to see, and it doesn't, I see people nodding. It doesn't keep disappearing and coming back again. I think that's been a little bit of a challenge for people. So we have that set up. So we're going to have a new box there. We also are going to have a link so that if someone wants to display all of the contextual measures following the key measures, they can click that, and every time they're in the system, it'll show all the measures and not just the key measures. But that'll be up to you as a user if that's how you'd like to use the system. We have the institution selection button. Not only do we have it by institution, but you can also select groups of institutions. You can select systems. You can select peer groups. So basically, we can either show you the data through this process, or you can go in through the interactive access and select what data you'd like to show. And in the interactive system, you can select Excel or HTML. So you can create Excel spreadsheets and take it from there, create charts or graphs, whatever you might need to do. As part of the accountability system, we have accountability peer groups. I think there's several of you in the audience who are members of our community college accountability peer groups. The groups meet once or twice a year here at the coordinating board, that we do broadcast it for folks who can't travel. There have been different charges to those accountability groups over the years. In the beginning, the groups really worked on solidifying the accountability measures. The groups have tackled projects like looking at student success, looking at value added, that sort of thing. This past year, the groups went back, now that it's been several years, and looked at the accountability measures again, and thought about if there needed to be any changes or any updates. We also had a meeting in the spring where we did very much what we've been doing with all of you today, where we talked about legislative issues, coordinating board activities, just kind of brought folks up to date on the types of things that have been going on at the agency that we thought would be of interest to the folks in the accountability groups. The community colleges are separated into 4 different groups. We've got very large, medium, and small. Sometimes those groups have met separately. Sometimes the large and very large have gotten together, and the medium and small. Sometimes everyone comes together, and it really depends on the agenda for that particular meeting, what the group is trying to accomplish that particular year. So, and I talked about the fact that we've done different things different years. So those of you, again, who are liaisons, who aren't part of that, you will probably see the emails related to those groups. It's a wonderful opportunity to find out more about what's going on at the coordinating board, especially related to the special topics that they're addressing. Okay. We've got some things that are coming that I'm excited about. One thing is that every December we do post the draft accountability system, and this is where we take all the data that you've reported to us, and I know in a very timely fashion this year, and we We post the data, we run our programs, we post the data in a draft accountability system for review. This is so that the folks who are reporting the data to us and your IR folks, your reporting officials, they can look at the data and make sure that we've got it correct for your institution. Because sometimes something goes wrong and something gets reported to us incorrectly, and this is a great way to find out early on in the process. We're also going to do something. We're going to do something new this year. We are going to have a site for statewide data. If you go into the accountability system, you'll see it's designed in a way that separates the types of institutions, which I think is very useful because often folks at universities want to see other data for universities. Each of the sections has statewide information. So you can look at statewide information for universities for all the measures. You can look at statewide information for community colleges for all the measures, or health-related institutions. But we haven't had a place where you can look at statewide information for all the types of institutions combined. So that's what we're going to be introducing. It won't include the career schools and the four-year non-Texas public, because we really don't collect the level of detail of data from those institutions. It's going to include the Texas public institutions, but combined. We get a lot of requests from legislators or folks in the field who just want one number, how many students are participating, graduating, et cetera, et cetera. So for us, for those measures where there is commonality across systems, we're going to have a statewide key measures that we're going to show as part of the system. So that'll be a new line that you can select in the accountability system. Okay, and I think that's it. Yes, David.
I just want to make a couple of quick historical notes. Before Julie was here, she would know that the governor actually did not include the community colleges in the executive order. And it was to the credit to the community colleges that they volunteered to develop an accountability system as well. So if you weren't here at that time, I think it's important that you know that. The second feature is all the community colleges were at the table when we developed the measure. So if you imagine a group at a big square table with all of you here, that's really what was involved in that first process. And at the time, and actually in terms of universities and community colleges, the board decided that we really needed peer groups. We determined those for community colleges, but the community colleges determined what the peer groups would be for them. It's a different notion, because so much of your mission is identical, but how would you approach the differences? It's important that all schools aren't equal, and you should be in terms of what types of groups you're serving. And so you should be compared to institutions that are most like yourself. So I just wanted to mention that, and if you could be sure that your folks at your institution know, because frequently we still find, as I mentioned earlier, folks aren't aware of this data, and it's a great way to get data where you can compare to another institution where you don't have to worry about how they defined it. It's defined one way here. And again, if somebody made a mistake in the calculation, it's us. It's not your colleagues at another institution.